Okay, so in this video we're going to look at constructions. We're not going to look at the constructions such as your perpendicular bisectors and the angle bisectors. They're in a different video, but in this one we're going to look at constructing triangles and different sized angles. So the equipment that you need will be a compass with a pencil already in it. Ideally a small pencil, because it will make it much easier to work with. You will need a separate pencil so you don't have to keep taking the pencil in and out. Also a ruler and a protractor. Key hint for when we're doing any construction work is to make sure that you do not rub out your construction lines. A lot of children are quite tempted to do so, but that's then going to lose you valuable marks. So the first triangle that we're going to look at is when we are given all three different sides. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the baseline from A to B as 10 centimetres using a ruler. And then I'm just going to move the ruler out the way, and I'm just going to put my A on this side and B on this side, just so I do not get confused. I then need these two lengths here, the length AC, which is 8 centimetres, and the length BC, which is 7 centimetres. You cannot use a ruler alone. This is where you then need to use the compass to construct the triangle. So the first thing I'm going to now do is pick up the ruler, and I'm going to set my compass to 8 centimetres. I'm setting it to 8 centimetres so it represents the length of AC. Once I've done that, I'm then going to put the point of the compass on the point A. And then I'm going to draw an arc. Don't have to do it all the way down, but you can if you want to. And I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. So this time we know that the length BC is 7 centimetres. So I'm going to take the compass back up to the ruler and this time set it at 7 centimetres. This time the point of the compass needs to go on the point B. And I'm going to do exactly the same skill and then going to draw an arc. The point of intersection, this point here, is then our point C. And then to complete it, you can use your ruler. I'm just going to use the line function, and I'm going to, where the point of intersection is, to B, and I'm going to do exactly the same from A to C. And if I was to get my ruler and now measure it, this length here would be 7 centimetres and this length here would be 8 centimetres. Okay, so the next type of triangle that we're going to look at constructing is where we are given the base, so same thing, AB is given as 7 centimetres. This time we have the length BC, which you know is 5 centimetres, and then I'm given the angle ABC as 53 degrees, so slightly different. So again, the starting place is going to be the same. I'm going to get my ruler and I am going to draw the base as 7 centimetres. Once I've got my ruler, I'm just going to move it out the way. I know again that this is the point A and I know this is the point B. I know that this length here is 5 centimetres, so I'm going to get the compass, very similar skill to what we've just done on the previous one. This time though, I only need to set it to 5 centimetres. I'm going to place it on point B. And I'm going to draw an arc. Now we don't quite know where we need this to be. We know it needs to be 53 degrees, so we're going to come to that bit in a moment. So I'm going to draw that arc around here. Again, it's construction line, it doesn't need to be rubbed off, it's absolutely fine where it is. So to be able to get accurately 53 degrees, we now also need a protractor. So I've got a 360 protractor. I'm just going to move it so the centre of my protractor is on the point B the best I can. I'm then going to rotate it so 0 is on the line AB, and I'm going to measure round to where 53 degrees is, and 53 degrees is roughly there, so I can just put a dot on the side. Now I know though that, remember, it needs to be 5 centimeters so from this direction. So what I do then need to do is get my ruler, or again I'm just going to use a line segment. It has to go through this point, and it also has to be on this radius here of the circle, so we know everywhere on here is 5 centimeters from B. So it's going to go from point B, it's going to go through the angle that I've marked to this line here, because remember that would therefore be 5 centimeters from B. Final thing I need to do is join the length AC, so I'm just going to do exactly the same thing from point A, and I'm going to join it to where it meets, and this here would be my point C, and this here would be my 53 degrees. So third type of triangle that we're going to look at, so this time we're only given the base AB, and then we're given the angle CAB and ABC. So again, starting place is to draw my base of 6 centimeters. And I'm just going to move my ruler out of the way. I'm going to need my protractor to measure the two different angles. So I've got an angle of 62 degrees, so on A, I'm going to place the centre of the protractor. I'm going to put 0 onto the line AB, the very best I can, slightly easier for you to do than me online. I'm going to measure around to 62 degrees, which is roughly there. I'm going to do exactly the same thing, pick up my protractor this time. I'm going to put it on the point B, and this time I'm going to measure 47 degrees. So just going to move it round, so I've got 0 on the line AB just to make it easier to measure. And I'm measuring 47 degrees, which is roughly there. Just going to move my protractor out of the way. So I know that A joins with this dot here, so that's going to be my first thing to do. So I'm going from A through here, because that creates my angle of 62 degrees. I'm going to go from B, and again I'm going to go through 47 degrees, and where those two points intersect is C. So this would be 62 degrees, and this would be 147 degrees. So the next thing that we're going to look at is constructing a hexagon. Now I've only ever seen this on a sample paper, but we never know what style of questions are going to come up in the future, so it's worth looking at and getting an idea of how it works. So to be able to construct a hexagon, the first thing I need to be able to do is to draw a circle. Now it doesn't matter what the radius of your circle is. So I'm just going to shorten mine slightly, and I'm just going to draw a circle all the way around. Now the hint to this is do not adjust the width of your compass, you need to leave it exactly as it is. I'm then going to take the point of my compass and I'm going to put it onto the circumference of my circle. It doesn't matter where you start, you can start absolutely anywhere, it's not a problem. And then I'm going to draw an arc over the circumference. I'm then going to pick up the compass again, I'm going to leave it exactly the same width, and I'm going to move the point of the compass onto the arc that I've just drawn. And then I'm going to repeat the process until I've been all the way around. Now if we've done this correctly, if I put compass back on and I go round, you'll see it fixes exactly where we started. Now if you notice, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 arcs on the circumference. So the next thing we need to do is to be able to join each of those arcs up. You'll be able to do this slightly easier than me with a ruler. I'm just going to try and do it online. So I'm going to join the arcs together. You'll see it's a little bit difficult sometimes for me to see exactly what I'm doing. And what you get once you've been all the way around is an absolutely perfect regular hexagon. Okay, so next we're going to move on to constructing different size angles. Again, I've very rarely seen this, but again, it's just worth knowing just in case they change the style of questions. So before I do anything, I'm just going to get my ruler and I'm going to draw a base to start from. Doesn't matter what length base you've got. I'm then going to get a compass. Doesn't matter really what length you set it to. I'm going to put the point of my compass on one end of a line. Again, doesn't matter which line you're going to use, and I'm going to draw an arc. Draw an arc all the way around. I'm now going to take the point of my compass without adjusting the width of my compass and place it where the arc intersects with the line that I initially drew, and draw another arc. Where those 2 points intersect is where it creates an angle, which is then 60 degrees. So what we've now just created is a 60-degree angle. So this time I'm going to construct a 30-degree angle. So I'm going to start the process exactly the same as previously. I'm going to draw myself a baseline. Doesn't matter how long it is. Because it's a 30-degree angle, I'm going to do it exactly as I would for a 60-degree angle. And then I'll explain where it's going to go from there. So again, doesn't matter what I've set it to. I'm going to start by placing the compass on the end of my line, and I'm going to draw an arc round. If you remember, you keep the compass exactly the same width. You then move the point of the compass to where the arc has intersected with a line and draw the next arc, which creates our 60-degree angle. So we know that this angle here is 60 degrees. Now we need the skills from a previous video, which is an angle bisector. So an angle bisector cuts an angle equally in half. So we need an angle bisector in this case to be able to create a 30-degree angle. Now we already have the compass set and we've already drawn this arc here. So all you need to do is keep it exactly where it is. I'm going to place it on the 2 lines which intersects with this first arc we drew, and draw another set of arcs. I'm going to pick it up, I'm going to move it to the other side, draw an arc, and then we join from the centre, or what we call here the vertex, through this point of intersection. And now what you'll find is that each of these angles is 30 degrees. Just to double check that, I'm just going to get my protractor and double check I've done that as perfect as I possibly can. So if I grab my protractor and if I put it onto the base, and if I just spin it round, so I've got 0 on the baseline, you'll see that this angle here is 30 and this angle here is 60. Okay, so this time I want to construct an angle which is 120 degrees. So again, I'm going to start it in exactly the same way as I did with an angle of 60 degrees. So I'm going to draw myself a baseline. Doesn't matter how long that baseline is. I then need my compass. I'm going to set it equal to whatever width I feel comfortable using, and the first thing I do is I draw an arc. I'm going to draw the arc a lot further around this time though, so pretty much like a semicircle. Remember, we do not adjust the width of the compass, but I move the compass so that the point of the compass is where it intersects with the arc and the line. And I'm going to draw yet another arc. I'm then going to pick up the compass yet again, kept at the same width, and draw it to where, to where it intersects with the two arcs, and draw a second arc. And if we then join the end of our line to where the two arcs intersect, this here is 120 degrees. Again, you can get your protractor to double check. Okay, final two that I'm going to look at. So I'm going to look to construct a 90-degree angle. Again, this needs some prior knowledge from previous. So this one you will need to use a perpendicular bisector. If you remember, a perpendicular bisector cuts a line in two equal parts and the two lines meet at a right angle. So I'm going to start by drawing a baseline. Again, doesn't matter what length your baseline is. If you remember, for a perpendicular bisector, you will need a compass. And when you're setting your compass must be at least half the length of your line, otherwise it's not going to work. So from that, I'm going to draw an arc from one end. Do not adjust the width of the compass, you pick it up and put the point of the compass on the other end. Again, I'm going to draw an arc round, and where these 2 points here intersect, I'm going to draw with your ruler a straight line through. And what we find is that each angle created is a right angle. Okay, so the final one we're going to look at is a 40-degree angle. So this works really similar to when we looked at a 30-degree angle. We're going to start by doing the 90-degree angle, which is obviously the perpendicular bisector, and then we're going to use an angle bisector to cut that completely in half. So just again, start with the baseline. My compass needs to be set over halfway, so again, this is good, just good practice with respect to being able, hold on, I just need to get that baseline back. So like I said, it's good practice for doing the perpendicular bisector. Needs to be over halfway. And I'm going to draw an arc from one end of my line. I'm going to move the compass without adjusting the width of the compass, and I'm going to draw an arc on the other side, and I'm going to join those up with a straight line. So I've got my 90-degree angle before I bisect that angle. So it doesn't matter which of these angles you want to bisect. So I'm going to bisect this angle here on this side. So remember, for an angle bisector, just going to move my ruler out of the way. For an angle bisector, it doesn't matter what the width of your compass is set at. It's just going to change the colour of my compass, just double check it's worked, yet, just so you can see the construction. So I'm going to put the point of the compass in the corner of the angle, or the vertex of the angle, and then I'm going to draw an arc. So I'm going to do it on this side here. So this is the red arc that I'm drawing. I do not adjust the width of the compass, but now what I need to do is move the point of the compass onto both places where the arc intersects with the purple line. Just going to remove my compass, and then finally just going to draw my line through. So it's going to go from the vertex of the angle through where the two intersect, and then what you find is that this angle here that we've just created down here is our 45 degrees. Again, it can start to look a little bit messy, but just be really careful. Do not remove or rub out any of your construction lines.